All right, welcome everybody to episode 6 of D&Debates. Today we will be focusing on multiclassing, an optional rule for D&D 5th edition. Multiclassing has a reputation in the D&D community for both being an optimizer's paradise and for being the source of some of the most ridiculous and potentially worst character builds that you can think of. I am Scott Gilman. I will be moderating today. Who are our players? Who are our debaters?
I'm Corey Lee. I will be debating today.
I'm Amanda Sharkey, and I'm also debating today.
And I am Jake Stemmons, and I will be debating today.
That's quite the coincidence. All right, so for those unfamiliar with the setup of our show, how it works is we have 3 questions. The debaters have been briefed on 2 of them, given them ahead of time. And the third question is a mystery question. The debaters will be given a certain amount of time for each question to state their own opinions on it, which will then be followed by a little bit of time of rebuttals, and then finally, or what we call the chaos round, and then finally some final statements on each of the questions. I will be tallying up points as it goes along. Are you all ready to begin?
Sure.
Should we preface this with that, Scott, you're the only one who has any idea, like, who has multi-class like more than once?
I have done it so many times, and none of the rest of you. Corey's done it once, right?
I played 2 sessions as a multi-class character.
Yes, as a multi-class wizard barbarian, yes?
That's correct.
Yes.
I played a one-shot. I have a one-shot where I played them.
I did in a one-shot where I played 5 classes at once. That's my only one.
As a level 5 character, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very qualified to be talking about this topic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, please listen to what we have to say. It is very...
Maybe it'll be kind of the business of whoever has the least negative points by the end of the debate.
Wisdom is knowing that you don't know. So we are wise because we know that we know nothing.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Wisdom. You know what I'm saying?
Question 1, I am going to be giving you a minute and a half for. Multiclassing adds an increased customizability to Dungeons & Dragons and lets you mix and match abilities that you wouldn't normally find on the same character. Players use this to optimize their characters, to replicate the power set of fictional characters, or to transform the vibe of a class. Tell me your multiclass build, why it requires multiple classes, and why it is more fun than your opponents. There will be a minute and 30 seconds. As always, I will roll the dice going clockwise on my screen to determine who goes first. Corey, whenever you are ready.
Okay. Barbarian, Druid. You mentioned optimization, Scott. Let me tell you about the tank optimization of this multi-class. Easily the most optimized tank build is the D12 Barbarian hit die, unarmored defense, rage, to mention a few. That plus the added health of a wild shape, you'll be an unkillable beast that can take hits like it's nobody's business. 2, you also mentioned replication. Well, let me name you some characters that I would consider to be badass Barbarian Druids. Beast Boy, you got Maui from Moana, Beorn from The Hobbit, freaking Animorphs, okay? Enough said. 3, finally, you mentioned transforming vibes of each class. With peace and love, barbarians are usually known for their axe-swinging, meathead role-playing. Druids are known for their staff-holding, tree-hugging, but a barbarian druid is a badass, tough person of the woods, in touch with the environment, strong and wise, kind of the best of both worlds. It's just going to be super fun to take all these hits, transform, just kind of be this like tank, huge, sponge of damage for your party. And really, I would love to try it, and I hope, you know, a lot of people will. Barbarian Druid.
All right, perfect. With
I knew someone would say that.
yeah.
Shit.
All right.
I got counter, so that's fine.
Let me roll the dice to see what is next. Okay, Jake, you are going to be our second for this first question. Again, 1 minute and 30 seconds, whenever you are ready.
I am combining two of the most different classes. I'm going for a rogue paladin. Now, paladin, these holy crusader people, rogues are all these subterfuge criminals. But it's combining that gives you a new role-playing avenue you never felt before. Like you could be, I don't know, a person who believes in a god but has gone down this horrible path and he hates himself for what he does, so he repents and stuff, but he still does these crimes. I mean, there's so many role-play possibilities. My favorite is assassin paladin, because assassins guarantee a critical when they hit surprise creature. So you combine that with divine smite, the best thing about paladins, of course, and so you auto crit. And I looked it up. This is the highest Nova damage build in the entire game. You can do up to 461 damage at level 20, admittedly, but it builds up to that point. I mean, it's especially nice with like Misty Step. So you see your enemy 30 feet away. You just Misty Step, take this heretic, and then just kill him. I don't know. It just sounds fun. Is it as powerful as the Druid Barbarian? Probably not, but that build is there. I think it's just fun.
We are at time. Thank you, Jake. All right. So we have tankiness in the form of the barbarian / druid, wild shapen beast. We have damage output in terms of the repentant yet tortured rogue paladin. Amanda, what have we got? What have you got for us?
I bring to you the same thing Corey suggested. I also think the most, I know here the keyword is fun. You said, why is it more fun than your opponents? That is perfect because I know fun. And what is more fun than wild shaping into a shark and raging as a shark? And now I'm going to step it up a bit. I'm going to build off of what Corey had, going to get a little more specific. We're going to go Circle of Moon Druid plus Wild Magic Barbarian, right? So you can wild shape into like a dinosaur or some shit, and then rage as a dinosaur and explode in magical dinosaur energy. Isn't that just the coolest shit? I mean, it's like you see like the Path of the Beast barbarian path, like, well, it's really cool because you're like raging of an animal. Then you read that primal path and you're like, wow, that's kind of boring. This is how you do primal path. Path of the Beast, whatever thing. This is how you do it. Is you don't actually do Path of the Beast. You take a little bit of Moon Druid, a little bit of wild magic. You can flavor the wild magic to be like naturey. That works. It's sort of fey nature, same thing, and it's just fun. It's really cool. Also, I mean, all your rage stuff will count from when you're in wild shape. That's pretty cool. It's just a good time. You gotta like, again, you gotta be like, I'm gonna be a giant wolf now, and I'm gonna rage. I'm a raging giant magical wolf. And I think that's the essence of what you have to do to combine these classes. Thank you.
We are precisely at time. I would like real quick for Corey to state what subclasses he would choose for his thing before we go into the chaos round to differentiate a little bit.
Sure. We'll say, I mean, really with the Druid Barbarian you can do any, but I'll say for the sake of this, Circle of Land Druid plus Spirit Guardian, or whatever that one was called, Ancestral Guardian.
Ancestral Guardians, very good. Tank
Barbarian.
Yeah. Okay. So you all know each other's builds. You know the criteria. You know that, of course, we want a build that is effective in the party, but we also want something that is flavorful and tells a good story. So we are going to start the chaos round. Time begins now.
I feel like since I'm alone here, I should start. Your guys' build is probably the strongest. So I'm not going to argue against that.
Thank you. Moving on.
I've heard stories. It's pretty broken. I mean, the DM will hate you, but that's another story. Is it fun? I'm going to argue no. I think you just hear me out.
Pardon me?
I think it'll be fun the first few times, but then what it will come down to, every single combat, you're wild shaping into the same animal. You will eventually find that optimal animal, and you'll never go down, probably. And so you're just basically fighting. Your character becomes a very tanky T-Rex. I mean, that's pretty cool, but you have no variety. Like my build, you have healing, you have assassinating, you have sneaking, you have supports, you have Deus Vult, you have all these things. But your build is just like super strong, but I think repetitive if you play enough of it.
There's also like, if it's a water fight, you can turn to marine animal, be a raging shark. You got variety. Yes, as a player of a druid, I do default to like the same two wild shape animals, but also like the fun comes to being able to rage and to get all these barbarian abilities as a giant animal, and that's pretty fun. What's really nice about
it's just half it's just half like the rage bonus you can get while being a dinosaur is, I mean, depending on subclass, but it's basically just half damage and maybe +2. That's pretty much it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what the subclasses do, but I think that's pretty much all you're going to get from
it's also
raging as a dinosaur.
It's in general also the barbarian abilities in general are very nice. Extra attack as an animal is great, and armor defense with your animal stats can be very nice. Reckless and so on.
Yeah, I don't think you need extra attack to extra attack as an animal. I think they'll have it already in the character block, so you could do that as a dinosaur.
Do they stack? I don't know.
No,
maybe.
they do not stack.
Stack, just cutting in here.
They do not.
Okay,
stack.
Whatever. It's still just the concept of it is so much fun. I like wild magic too, because it always just makes things more fun, and because it's combining the magic of the druid with the rage and the barbarian. It's a nice transition, a nice way to tie these two things together. Yeah, like, and I don't think anyone's gonna complain if like your stick is turning into a magical exploding dinosaur. Like, no,
I just feel like all the barbarian side of this is adding to this whole thing is tankiness. I don't think it adds much more.
But also like, the concept of the rage, thematically feels very fitting with like turning into raging animals.
I mean, barbarian can add damage too, with or at least potential for damage with something like a reckless swing, or I mean, you obviously have the extra damage from rage. But also going back to your point about not being able to do much, I mean, we mentioned mostly the tankiness and the just kind of juggernaut-esque like abilities of the multi-class, but you also have everything from, healing of the druid or all the other spells you can take that kind of go along with it and give you other opportunities to do things. I mean, yeah, you can do this one thing really, really well, but you still have like the benefits from like, I mean, other, whether there's other sort of strength you need in the campaign besides just attacking, or just any of the skills that druid spells can give you.
Also,
in combat, you will probably never cast a single spell because you're going to be raging all the time. And you can't cast spells while raging. I'm just saying that. I mean, I'm sure there was some role play opportunities to cast spells. I'm sure, but this shows with my build.
So I don't know, though. Besides sneak attack, applying to like divine smite, like what real benefit is there to this rogue paladin specifically combo? Because it seems like then they're both, like, especially paladins very well, like can do a good amount of things. It's kind of like spreading itself a little thin, and then rogue is I guess sort of that, but like it doesn't feel like you're really optimizing much besides that one damage thing. And mechanically, it sounds a little boring overall. You really gotta rely on that like two sides of the same coin. You got the darkness, edgy rogue with the like holy paladin. You're really relying on that. And even
I mean,
still,
you don't necessarily. That's so. There are some in pop culture. I think Inigo Montoya. I think he's a swashbuckler, Oath of Vengeance. paladin.
Okay, you can
And
be a
he-
person
and
who has
he's a,
motivation without having to be like, it's my oath. Like that's what the bonds are in like personality traits, bonds, flaws. That's what that is for. You don't have to.
That's the
If you're
thing.
getting revenge, you don't have to be an oath of vengeance paladin.
Anyway, like what it adds, well, I think you can't just pass off the sneak attack and divine smite as, aside from that, those are very, sneak attack and divine smite are two of the most powerful mechanics in the entire game. And but you just could, is it like it, I think the most optimal way of doing this build is only putting a few levels in paladin, because you only need a few levels of paladin to get access to healing. I mean, healing is always useful. Lay of Hands is always nice. Misty Step's a lovely spell. I mean, you have to go for Vengeance to do that.
But
And you get all these other spells. Rogues don't have spells, and I think that's an absence of, rogues get repetitive. They don't have many options. And I think paladins provide them with lots of options.
I don't think paladin is the way you want to spice up your rogue. There's so many other things you could multi-class with rogue to make it more interesting. I think the big thing is more, why is it more fun than ours? That is not more fun. You have to get have to be very thematic towards what you're doing. Like religion would have to be a huge thing in order, in like this game, like in order for that to be make any sense. And also you just admitted like you're only sprinkling the paladin for that extra mechanical game.
I mean,
not much for like the fun, the energy, and the vibe of the game.
I'm going to interrupt right here for, we are not done with the chaos round yet, but I would like to direct the conversation towards the way your multiclass tells a specific story, and why the multiclass is necessary for that story, why it would work in a long-running campaign. I would also like to note a couple of mechanical things, which is that first off, the Druid Barbarian combination will be limited by the CR if you don't take many Druid levels, and will be limited in number of rages if you don't take many Barbarian levels. Meanwhile, the Rogue/Paladin requires multiclassing minimums of a 13 in 3 different stats that are not Constitution. Carry on.
Thank you.
I mean, well, anyway, let's.
So also, Scott, you didn't specify a level in the question, so I'm gonna assume 10 levels of Moon Druid, 10 levels of Loud Match Barbarian.
I mean, if we're level 20, my guy can do 500 damage at the beginning of combat.
Yeah, but can he turn to a giant dinosaur, and when he does that, rage and then explode into magical energy? I don't think so.
I mean, my guy can one-shot your guy, so.
I don't think he can hit my guy. That's the thing.
But Jake, can your guy still stealth with all the heavy armor proficiency?
Well, he doesn't have to go heavy armor. He doesn't have his proficiency.
Just question.
Okay, low constitution, no heavy armor. That's a shitty paladin.
Well, I mean, he isn't a paladin. He's a paladin rogue. Rogues aren't tanky. This guy doesn't necessarily have to be tanky.
But the point of the paladin is like to be up there in the front lines. It's hard to justify.
That's a pure paladin. That's a pure paladin.
Let's tell a story. Let's tell a story.
Cody, tell us your story. Why'd you choose the worst druid class and like an okay barbarian subclass?
Once upon a time, Amanda.
Okay.
There was a person of the woods, talking to animals and shit, right? And one day, some lumberjacks, some good for nothing lumberjacks came by.
Fuck them lumberjacks.
Decided, hey, this is ours now. These woods you're in, this is ours now, okay? Fuck your animals, okay, you weirdo talking to them. What are you, Dr. Doolittle? That exists in this world. So they cut down some trees, but this person of the woods is like, I'm not having it. I am not. So they fight back. They mug one of these lumberjacks, take their axe, and you decide, you know what? I'm enraged by this. So I will turn into one of the animals that I talk to and drive them all away because they won't be able to kill me. Boom. Look, that's just an example, okay? Look, it's very synergistic with something like an Outlander background, or I'm not super familiar with playing a druid. I've never personally played a druid, but I think that sort of naturey vibe can go hand in hand in any way, shape, or form that you want to go with the story.
Yes, it's very clear that you don't play druid because the land druid, it is just objectively shitty. I'm sorry.
Like I said, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. It can be literally any.
That's fair.
It's.
But I'm gonna propose with my moon druid, wild magic barbarian. You have this kind of regular kind of angry fighter type. You know, kind of almost classic, just regular barbarian. Gets bit by a magical fey badger, and is filled with this natural magic, but also angry animalness. And that's when he starts his journey as a moon druid, wild magic barbarian. His magical rabies in him, and it just makes sense. It clicks well. You know, Corey, you mentioned the animal, you know, angry animal transformation character fighter trope earlier on. It builds on that. All I'm saying is mine's the best. It's fun. I want to play one. I've seen it play before. They're very fun.
I guess my story time. Now I think this one depends on which class you're starting with. So let's start with you start with as a rogue. Let's say you start as a rogue and you're multiclassing into paladin. Well, clearly, maybe your evil doings. One day you had just mugged some old guy and he had died of blood loss, and you were like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. And so the local bishop comes to you and says, my child, unto God he forgives. But Father, how could God forgive such crimes? God forgives all. And so you start multiclassing into paladin. Or if you start as paladin and go into rogue, maybe this is an idea that sounds really cool. The religion in this world has holy assassins, and you are one of these holy assassins, killing off evil good for nothings left, right, and center. Or maybe like the one I said before, you were holy, but you fell on bad times. Maybe there was a tragedy in your life and you kind of fell to crime. You still hold on to your gods, but you become an exile in your religious community because of the evil you do. But you hate yourself for doing such evils while you also worship this god. I don't know. There's lots of possibilities.
All right, very nice. I'm going to give you each 40 seconds to give closing statements.
I guess I can go. Well, I'll just start with you got the weakness you said because of these bad stats, and you said it'd be a shitty paladin because it has bad con. Let me try and think of a paladin that has bad con. Oh yes, right. Galena has 10 con, but she is shitty paladin. I don't think so. Anyway, this build provides you with a very unique role-playing possibility that you can't get in any other builds. It's very powerful, as I've shown, I think, and it's the ultimate assassin, and I think that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. You're mixing two opposite ends. That's all I have to say about that. Glenn is cool.
We're at 39 seconds. All right, who is next?
Okay, Glenn is good. Well, apparently not according to Amanda, but you know.
How dare you?
Fuck it, I'll go. Basically, this is the point of multiclass here is with the wild magic barbarian moon druid is that it is fun. It improves your stats. It feels meaningful, and it's just a good time. It sounds cool. It feels good. Like the fact that you like turn into a giant shark. And then when you're a shark, you're this magical shark that you rage because you're an angry ass shark, and then you explode with magic energy. That is so cool. And you can get like a little bit of support through Wild Magic Barbarian too, which can complement and support stuff in as a druid. It's like, yeah, you
Okay. So yeah, again, going back to what you said, Scott, you know, optimization, replication, transformation, right? These are all three things that a barbarian druid covers, you know, and as far as subclasses go, like I said, it's very versatile. Either all of them kind of work in tandem very well and can tell their own individual story. It's great. It's great playing like mechanically, and it's great flavorfully, maybe, whatever. That it's just kind of all around a very strong and neat little build. Try it out. I will. I promise.
Excellent. All right, so that is time on the first question. Corey, for the record, though I gave you a bonus point for doing so, you did not have to meet all three criteria.
Yeah, I just wanted that to be part of my.
All right, excellent, excellent. Okay, we are now on to question 2, which I will also be giving you a minute and a half for. Now, this question is a little bit more geared towards DMs. Multiclassing can have major ramifications for a character's story, or it can go simply unmentioned within the broader narrative. Tell me the best way to incorporate multiclassing into a campaign you're DMing and how it enhances the experience or the story. I will be, again, rolling dice, disqualifying Corey from going first, Jake from going second, Amanda from going last. Okay, Jake, you are going to be going first.
Okay. Do you now go? Sure.
Whenever you're ready.
I mean, I am DMing 2 campaigns, but I'll draw on the one that you guys are playing. I think the obvious answer is multiclassing into either Warlock or Paladin, because I think greater beings play a big role in my campaign, namely Ash King, Abyssal King, Glenroy. And if one chooses to starting to side with, let's start the demon gods, where you start taking levels in Warlock, and kind of as you get more levels in Warlock, your connection to that god kind of increases. But if you wanted to go the more righteous route, then you would multiclass into Paladin or Cleric, I suppose, and kind of become to devote yourself more to Glenroy. I mean, I don't know if this is anything your guys' characters will do at the moment, but it's definitely a path you could have taken, for example, when you had the sword, and maybe you all become righteous warriors of Glenroy, and you all take a level. I mean, I'm not saying you should have done this, but you could have. And you all take like only 1 level in Paladin, perhaps. You're all Paladins of Glenroy. Or maybe you all decide to go evil and become followers of Hell the Ash King, and you all take some levels in Warlocks. I mean, that's my answer for this. I've never really thought about it before.
All right, we are at time, incorporating things into the story, making sure that they are linked to greater beings. Noted. And Amanda, you went last time, so you are automatically our second on this occasion.
Great. So here's the thing. This is a weird question because it's so broad, and it's very situational because I run multiple campaigns, multiple types of campaigns. So because it's situational, I made a flowchart. I maybe send a picture later, but I made a flowchart to trace. I'll speak through it. It's a little messy. My handwriting's not great.
God.
But basically it starts, it's actually not that complicated. It just asks like, okay, first of all, who's suggesting it? Is it the player being like, I want to multi-class, or is it the DM being like, hey, this happens, I think you should multi-class? If it's the DM being like, hey, player, you should multi-class, first gotta ask yourself, does the player want to multi-class actually? If the answer is no, don't multi-class. But if it's yes, then you gotta be like, okay, is it for the narrative or is it for the mechanics? If it's in the narrative, hell yeah, next level up, have a multi-class. If it's for mechanics, that's kind of insulting because you're kind of telling the player, hey, I think you need to increase your stats by doing this thing. And that's kind of rude. And on the other hand, if the player brings it up, you gotta look at, is it for narrative purposes or is it mechanical gain? And if it's for mechanical gain, don't do it if it can't justify it narratively. Otherwise, ask, will it make them more noticeably, more or less powerful than the rest of the party? If the answer is yes, recommend flavoring, but if they're really insistent on multi-classing, they can go for it. Otherwise, hell yeah, if it's for the narrative, If it's going to keep a balanced party, go for it. Next level up, do the multi-class. And honestly, how does it enhance the story and story experience? Look, the DM's happy, the player's happy because they're doing a cool character thing. That's all that matters. That's enhanced story.
All right, nice. I like the flowchart.
Should I send a picture of the flowchart to the chat? It's not that, it's a little messy. I can make
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, Corey. Whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
So, of course, I want to say, almost too obvious not to, that during session 0 or character creation at the beginning of a campaign, a good DM would ask PCs at least, or make sure whether or not any of them want to play a multi-class character. That's like baseline stuff. But of course, not every player is going to know in session 0 whether or not they want a multi-class. So here's what I got. This is something that is a boon in a greater sense that than just multi-classing in D&D, but I still think it's something that would work perfectly for PCs who want a multi-class, and I'd like to try it in a future campaign. Theoretically, is something that would be super helpful in keeping a good finger on the pulse of your PCs, and that is quick feedback/surveys at the end of each session. It's 3 simple questions. How are you feeling after the session? How is your character feeling after the session? What direction do you see your character going in the future? 3 simple questions that allow you to find out whenever your PCs want to start multi-classing, and even more importantly, how they want to do it. With this information, you can add things to the campaign that make whatever class you're adding come naturally to the campaign. They can be built up to, and they won't feel forced because you and your PCs are on the same wavelength. So yeah.
All right, nice. Ahead of time. And as always, we are going to have the chaos round now. How do all of these why do all of these well-reasoned, very reasonable ways to incorporate multi-classing, why do they suck so much more than yours?
I feel like I almost answered a different question. You guys are talking about like between players and DMs. I didn't realize. I don't know if that was the question, but I don't know. You guys did.
I'll just say that that's kind of the big detractor from your sake.
My
it's like,
character
well, I can address
would never
that now
do that.
if you'd like. I can address that.
And
Well, of course, because you
Go ahead.
make sure if the player's a newbie, you make sure that they realize that for a time when they multiclass, they will probably be underpowered, because that's just kind of how multiclassing is. And if they're still up for it, then you kind of talk with them as if they're creating a new character. Like, what would this imply for your character? So if they are becoming, I don't know, a artificer for some reason, maybe you can talk to the player how they've gotten involved in the local artificers guild or something. You kind of ties that into the story, and you introduce new plot hooks for the character, and making them feel like this multiclassing does more than just add abilities, but actually adds more identity to who their character is. I don't know. I guess that's
that's what I'm saying.
Why my flowchart, which I didn't get explained all the way, and my phone's being slow, so I can't see the whole picture. But in a lot of these options, I have like recommend to flavor over multi-class, because multi-classing can complicate things all the time. It can, again, the mechanical imbalance is kind of sucky. So often, if it is sort of mechanically incentivized, or it makes less sense, it isn't as justified in the world, the narrative, or the plot, just recommend a flavoring, because that can be so much better. Recommend taking some proficiencies. That is, I think, a much better way of trying to force a multi-class where it's not really needed. Yeah, sometimes in situations where it's like evil patron is introduced, that's a very fun way, like multi-class, get those warlock things. But yeah, you don't really have to, because other options, mainly flavoring, it's so much easier. I think the big thing is, as long as like both the player and the DM are happy with it, it works. It's good. That's how you enhance the campaign experience, when everyone's happy with their character, happy with how they're flavored, happy with the mechanics.
So Amanda, with your flowchart, like I haven't seen it, but like does it start like the DM comes to the player versus the player comes to the DM?
It has both as options. That's like the first question is like who's starting it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, mine is similar as far as like relationship between DM and player. But another good thing I'll say about mine is that it doesn't only have to do with multiclassing. It has to do with like the general arc of the character as a whole, and fitting the multiclass into that. I think is a really good way to incorporate it into like the story of each individual character, and gives the DM sort of ideas ahead of time to sort of start putting things in. Now, granted, this is also like, you know, depending on what the player like says to the DM, but like if you've got a good group and you've got like good communication, like I know we all, I'm sure, really enjoy talking to Jake about our characters. Jake, I mean, there's a lot of characters in your campaign. I don't know what it's like for you, but I know that players are, you know, really want to flesh out their character the best way they can, and if they want to multi-class, then I think talking to them about it with, you know, kind of between each session is the best way.
But I feel like always having the option of like, hey, do you want a multi-class? It's on the table. It's a constant matter. It may drive players to want to multi-class more than they really should or have to.
But the survey isn't, hey, do you want a multi-class? It's, hey, where do you see your character going? And that can sort of spark a discourse of, hey, if you want your character to, I don't know, like, you know, become some sort of thief for some reason, I don't know, then, you know, here's something we can, you know, talk about and look forward to in the future. It doesn't have to, it doesn't like pigeonhole them into multi-classing. It just like lets them know, hey, you know, what's up with your character. That's
a small thing on yours, Amanda. I mean, it wouldn't be the truth for experienced players, but for a new player, for a DM to recommend them to reflavor instead of multiclass, they're just not going to multiclass. They might, but I feel like more than just recommends, maybe just make sure they're aware of the other options and just say, hey, you can do this, but it can't, like, just kind of talk to them about the pros and cons of multiclassing. Because there are definitely things they wouldn't be able to do if they didn't multiclass, but there are certainly things that I mean, I don't know, I think I forgot what I said, but you know, there are pros to multiclassing, but make sure they're aware of the cons. And that's just I mean, that's in the step of, will it make them noticeably more or less powerful than the rest of the party? So well, that's accounted for in this step here. I think this should be as soon as you recommend them reflavor. I think you need to, I think that's important to start with. Because I mean, if you recommend them reflavor, a lot of players will just be like, yeah, I mean, they're more experienced.
And it's not reflavor, it's adding flavor too. It's not,
yeah, but like,
it's not changing the character.
Is this what changing mechanically? What is this like?
So it's
role
the
play.
difference of, does a player want to multi-class because they're trying to optimize the mechanics of their character, or do they want to multi-class because their character is going through actual changes? Maybe they, you know, that you introduce this dark god in this world or something, and now this character is like, hey, I think my character has this attachment to this person, and maybe it's trying to get powers from it. Like, it's two different situations versus like, I want to take this thing so I can gain these mechanical benefits. That, unless it can be justified in the world of the story and the campaign, don't make a lot of sense and really seem like a very obvious, I'm a more experienced player trying to get mechanical benefits later down the road.
If they want to multi-class for mechanical benefits, then I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I mean,
because it wouldn't make sense. They have to justify it.
Of course, yeah. The DM should make sure that they, like, for example, if Vega suddenly wants to multi-class into, what's the most outrageous? Okay, I was actually, she wants to, no, better example. What happens if Galena wants to suddenly multi-class into Artificer? I'd be like, why? And then if you came up with some actually reason, I'd be like, okay, but
yeah, and that's a step in my flowchart.
Not everyone has a flowchart though.
I have a flowchart, and I think everyone should have a flowchart because flowcharts are great. It organizes your ideas very clearly. It helps you trace your train of thought. It's very situational, which this is very situational. This helps.
I mean, it's good for some people. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing, but some people probably might prefer just undirected chats, you know.
Now that we are on the subject of flowcharts versus no flowcharts, I think now is a good time to go into our closing statements. Again, why?
That was the real question, Scott.
Anyways, I'm pro flowchart. This debate is now pro versus anti flowchart. The correct answer is pro flowchart.
Pro flowchart. I will be a biased moderator if this goes to just flowchart versus no flowchart. But as a reminder, before your closing statements, Why is your method for the story of the campaign a superior method?
I'll go first.
Yeah, great.
So, having, like I said, my method kind of goes farther than just whether being good for multiclassing. It's good for a DM to be on the same page as their PCs, because as a DM, you want your PCs to have fun. You want each of their individual character arcs and stories to be fulfilling, and multiclassing, if they want to, is always going to be a part of that. So it's really good enhancing the story because you get sort of like almost like not a warning necessarily, but like a precursor for like, hey, this is what kind of what I want to do with my character. So you as the DM can plant some seeds within the campaign that can grow into whatever the player wants to do, whether it be multi-classing or something else. And so from that general perspective, having that sort of that discourse about characters and their development is really good for multi-classing and just in general forming, story arcs for characters and challenges and, pitfalls and triumphs and etc. So again, also, I love a good flowchart, but sometimes good old-fashioned discourse and talking is the way to go, and I think it is in this case.
We are at time. Yes.
I'll go. I'll say that my flowchart encourages discussion and discourse and communication. So there's that. Really, this just ensures that when a player wants multiclass or when you think there should be a multiclass, it is for the benefit of the story and it is for enhancing the story and not just for someone's personal interest or for your own DM bias or suggestion. It opens the dialogue between the player and the DM to think like what's the most constructive way that we can introduce a multiclass if a multiclass is really needed, because it can cause these imbalances and mechanical disputes. And this really ensures that you're getting the most out of what you're trying to do, examining, can it be done a better way? Do you really need this multiclass? What are you trying to prioritize here? And it just kind of opens up that, it lets you to explore the purpose and the meaning of it. I think having a bit more structure to kind of look to really examine like why you're using this multi-class, like why you want this multi-class, is a bit better than just like talk about it. And if someone wants to do it, great. Because it's a cool use, is a fine way of approaching it, but not great. Jake, I went over time, but Jake, I don't know what to say about yours. Just
I'm letting you all. I
Yeah,
let
means
Corey
you're
go about
fine.
20 seconds over because I didn't look at the clock. So I'm letting you all go a little over.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I think multiclassing is a great way to kind of use along as you go along the story. So my example was you have a special connection to a greater being, and you take warlock or paladin levels to kind of show your greater connection to them. But there are other things like maybe when you're going through a town and they've got some inventors fair going on and your experiences of building something make you especially good at building. Maybe you're coming to artifice or whatever. So it's kind of a way of showing how your character progresses beyond where it starts at. And I think the process of deciding whether or not a player wants to multiclass or not, I mean, I don't really think it matters. Some people like flowcharts. I don't know if you need a flowchart. It's really just down to do they understand what it will entail, and is it the best thing for their character to go? And I think that's just kind of a conversation between your DM and player, basically. Yeah, and then yeah.
All right,
Mm.
perfect. So, are you all ready for our mystery question? Question 3.
Certainly.
Yes.
All right, for this one, I was a little bit inspired from 2 previous debates that we've had. One where Corey included a challenge section, and I'm seeing a lot of grimaces right now, and another where we talked about stat generation and some of the interesting ways to do it. So I have come up with a challenge. We will pause the recording. Everyone will roll their stats in order. 4d6, drop the lowest. The first one you roll goes in strength, the second in dexterity, etc. And you will make a multi-class, however many classes you want, character of level 6, which is just before most multi-class builds come online, but level 8 would be a little bit too much. You don't need to have a sheet made. You don't need to be ready to play this character, but you must be able to tell me why this character is both more mechanically viable for a
No.
long-term campaign and has a more compelling story than your competitor's character. Bonus points will be awarded if the mechanical strength and storytelling potential is baked into the multi-class.
How we run stats? So
You're really
1d20,
making me.
1d20.
You're really making me on the spot. A, multi-class, and B, mechanically optimized.
It's happened. It's happened.
We will be doing 4d6, drop the lowest. Again, in order.
Which we roll just 20 in every stat.
All right. Okay.
Pencils down.
I don't even know anymore.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the order this will be going is Amanda first, then Corey, you have not gone second yet, correct?
I believe that's correct.
All right, and then Jake. So I will be giving you a minute and a half if you need that long to explain. Actually, real quick, before the time starts, Amanda, can you just say what your stats that you rolled are?
Right. First of all, I think I've gone first for the last question like so many times. I don't know why it's like this. I'm terrible.
It's a rip.
All right. Here are my stats. Strength is 6 to -2. Dex is 11, so 0. Con 14, which is +2. Intelligence 16 +3. Wisdom 13 +1. Charisma is 13, it's +1. So that's what I have to work with. But I think I can have something. Starting timer.
Yeah.
Cool. So we start with a very studious wizard, an astronomer, actually, an astrophysicist, who studies the stars, studies the universe, and eventually gets into cosmology. And in fact, is so into this, they are actually a second level become a chronogurgy wizard, right? Chronogurgy wizard, and that's so first of all, it's taking levels in wizard. Then at some point in time, around 4th level, they get so invested into the stars and the universe that they actually start embracing the celestial magic, and that's when they start taking levels in druid. Eventually, 2 levels later, taking Circle of Stars druid, as they now have enough energy to embrace the celestial magic. So there are 4 levels: chronogurgy wizard, 2 levels Circle of Stars druid. Whole thing is astronomy, astrophysics, cosmology, embracing both the science and the sense of gravity and time, combined with the magic of this celestial world. And it is 15 seconds. Both subclasses are like beefy and powerful. They're great. The low dex are made up for with the temporal awareness, where you can add intelligence to initiative rolls. Both of them are great and balanced. Yeah, you shouldn't be towards the front of things a lot because you're weak wizard, but spellcasting options, great here.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what I have.
All right, Circle of Stars mixed with chronology wizard. Very thematic, very thematic.
Yeah, make sure, 4 levels of the wizard, 2 levels of druid, so you get the ASI for wisdom at level 4.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh shit. My guy's only 5th level. Carry on.
All right. Corey, you are up next.
All right, do you want to hear my stats first?
Real quick. Yeah, run down your stats real quick.
Okay, I actually rolled pretty well. For strength, I rolled 11, so +0. For dex, 8, -1. Con, 17, +3. Int, 13, +1. Wisdom, 14, +2. And charisma, 15, +2.
Okay. Okay. Let's hear what you got.
Okay, so my character is a divine soul sorcerer, 4 levels of divine soul sorcerer and 2 levels of warlock. And let me tell you how that happened. Okay, so our character, I named him Pondo just because. Give him a last name if you want to, but he was blessed by the principal angel of insert campaign's lawful good god here, and among the adventures with the party, having, facing some sort of demon plaguish sort of, leader, ruler, whatever of any sort of evil dimension, what have you, and is captured in the first, bout by, maybe a henchman or some affiliated being to be used for the demon's power against the party. So you've got this divine soul sorcerer on the party side, but eventually captured by the warlock and more or less forced into a pact with them. So you've got the cool duality of this divine soul blessed by the heavens, and then the sort of like attempt for corruption in their magic by the warlock patron. But that's pretty much the gist of it. I also made them tiefling to give them +2 charisma, and then ability score increase at level 4 would also be in charisma. Yeah.
Are we doing race? Oh, oops.
Oops.
If you want.
Corey, would you say that they're 2 sides of the same coin?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Or at least they're being tested. 2 sides of the same coin.
I've actually already forgotten. What was yours again?
Mine?
Yeah,
Divine soul sorcerer warlock.
I knew that. I knew that.
4 and 2, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Jake, we are on to you.
Oh boy, my stats were
Your stats.
a interesting bunch. I got 16 strength +3. I got an ASI and I put them both into dex, so I have 16 dex +3. 12 con +1, 13 int +1, 10 wisdom +0, and 7 charisma -2.
Okay.
I am not a spellcaster, I'll tell you that. Well, what I've gone for is, so okay, you guys told me the story. So there was this one day, there was this petty burglar, right? He's got a level in rogue. He's a petty burglar, but one day when he's walking through the street, he had his pet chicken by him, and somebody killed his chicken, and this put him into an uncontested rage, and now he can never stop raging. So he basically is 1 level of rogue and 5 in barbarian. I think the fight you at this level, extra attack. Oh yes, at level 5 you have extra attack, and with rogue this guy does damage. So he does dual wield. He dual wields, I don't know, some 1d6 plus finesse weapon. And he's part of the zealot barbarian just because it does even more damage. So he just does loads of damage. He has a barbarian with 5 levels. He's pretty hard to kill. That's what I could do with those stats. He deals a lot of damage. He has 2 attacks. He has sneak attack. Path of the zealot gives him an extra plus 1d6 +2. And yeah, I think that's. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's okay.
All right. Perfect. It is chaos round time. Convince me why these other multi-classes don't work.
I don't know what you guys said.
Corey, I want to know, what is your warlock patron? Because you just said
I forgot to say. I mean, it depends on the campaign, because I would say that like this patron would end up being like BBEG type sort of thing, but probably like fiend or undying or something like that.
okay, because like there is like, like warlock pact of the celestial too. So like just warlock in general, just making sure that it would be this duality. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I will argue is that especially at lower levels, like sorcerer spellcasting, warlock spellcasting, both are kind of So you just kind of have like two very underwhelming spellcasters, which thematically makes sense. I guess if you want to go into that kind of two sides thing, you have the light sorcerer divine stuff and this internal nice magic versus like dark edgy warlock stuff. But it's just mechanically won't be as fun, and it feels a little forced. Also, if we're going for names, we're gonna name the characters. Was yours Pondo? That's dumb. My character, her name is.
Whoa.
Yeah, look, I just threw it out there.
Okay, Pondo
Whoa.
for a internally compromises, has this duality with them, this divineness and this evil darkness.
You know why he's
named
called Pondo? You know why he's called Pondo?
Why?
Because he's a pawn for the beam.
I don't
Anyway,
even know what to say to
No,
that.
I actually hate it more now.
Yeah.
no, look. You can name the character whatever you want. Okay, the name has nothing to do with the multi-class or the potential for it. So there's that. Amanda, yours was the stars. I see the correlation there. But that's about all I see. I'm gonna be honest.
Really, you can't tie in astronomy, astrophysics, and cosmology and quantum physics because they go together.
No, I do
very
not.
well.
I don't even know what for like the half of those are. No, but I'm saying what I'm saying is they work very well together. You've got the I guess like quantum physics or whatever. I don't know. But those two sort of sciencey sort of theoretic-y type things like going together. But like what more do you have besides like I like science?
Both subclasses are very good spellcasting subclasses. Like, imagine being able to be into like dragon form, dragon starry form, and then have all your beefier wizard spells with concentration that increase. Mechanically, a lot of the benefits of both sides help even things out. You get proficiencies from being a druid, just like things in armor that will help balance out the weakness of being a wizard physically.
Do you? I don't think if you start as a druid, maybe.
Heavy armor is the only thing that you don't get when you multi-class into something.
I believe druid.
Druid's a proficiency in mini armor. Huh?
You would get light armor, medium armored shields.
Okay, sure. Sure.
So that is great for wizard. And it makes sense. Like you've studied this thing scientifically and objectively for so long that you eventually get to embrace it on a more magical arcane level. I think it's pretty sweet. It's pretty snazzy. It works thematically. It works mechanically. I'm not a huge fan of the rogue barbarian. It feels like the rogue was like an afterthought, even though you're starting in rogue.
The juicy combo between reckless attack and sneak attack cannot be overlooked because you will always have advantage.
There's other benefits to playing a rogue though, which you're just completely missing by only taking one level. But just like
or maybe
first
I'll
level,
take more in
that's
the future. You need that extra attack as fast as you can, and I think the amount that of extra attack adds is a lot, basically.
Sure, but it just how does the zealot barbarian tie in well with the rogue narratively and thematically besides the extra damage?
I mean, how does any of it tie in narratively?
Well, exactly. I told you because the chicken. Anyway.
That's right.
With the zealot, let me just find out what zealot does. I mean, I didn't really think about it. I don't know. The zealot, maybe this chicken was a god, and a god of the storm, perhaps. And in the last moments of its life, the chicken imbued its magical power and said, "Godfrey, avenge me," and gave him his magical powers. And that's how he became a zealot of the storm.
I don't know how to respond to that. I don't even know.
Because there's no good response.
So I'll say this. Going back to your point, Amanda, so I understand as on with a character standpoint, like the affiliation with this knowledge of time and the stars, but like I'm having a hard time seeing that play out in a narrative other than just like a Pokemon evolving to like something like that. Oh, now I'm a druid as well. Like, I don't know. It just kind of seems, it's like I can't see how that would play out.
This person has gone so far deep into the physical sciences and the magic that can be gained academically and through books and research that it's now grown into this deeper arcane like nature-based connection. They're now like innately connected to the stars. It's like they've transgressed beyond the physical reality into like the arcane background of the universe. That's pretty, that makes sense. That's a strong, like, that makes sense to me.
They get stronger and then they level up to become something a little with something added and more stronger. I mean, I don't know. Like,
yeah, they get stronger as they level up, and it's
like,
new.
I said, that just sounds like Pokemon to me. Like, it doesn't, like, I get what you're saying from a character standpoint, but and then in the narrative, like what happens besides the character just getting stronger? Because every character gets stronger in D&D. Yours is just getting stronger in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're all getting stronger in different ways.
I'm saying, but what's the story behind that besides just like you getting stronger? Like, does anything happen, or does your character just like, galaxy brain?
They understand the universe and how it works beyond just the physical sense now, and they're learning to embrace this background magic, because in D&D there's this whole thing of like this background magic that allows this fantasy world to exist. And that's what they start to go into. They've examined this physical, logical world, but now they're just going deeper into this innate cosmic background magic. And that's fucking awesome. Y'all need to study cosmology. Cosmology is like,
Chaos round is over. I'm going to give each of you a minute for your closing statements. Try and focus on areas that you have not covered.
I'll go first. So I'll say I did go over a lot of kind of the background of what's the deal with my character, but I will say mechanically it also does work pretty well, because like I said, I put a lot into charisma, and having a sorcerer and warlock, two spellcasters with spellcasting abilities that are both based on charisma, is very strong. And then again, aside like with the actual story itself, having that affiliation between like being blessed and then also being like captured and used against the party or what have you. It's just super cool flavor that I think is a good reasoning, because I've always been trepidatious. I mean, for multiclassing in general, but also just having like two spell casting multiclassing, because it's just like all these spells, what are you going to do? But to sort of have that like sensible sort of introduction that like from the story into it, I feel like I'd be more willing to delve into that.
There we go. That's time.
I'll go. I think my character, it makes sense. The progression makes sense. It ties in nicely, both mechanically, they complement each other, they build up each other, and thematically makes so much sense. Corey, Pondo is okay. I feel like if you're going for charisma-based casters, Bard offers more versatility. I'll throw that out there. You get kind of two weak spellcasters at low levels. Jake, I'm just not a fan. It feels like you're going for the mechanical optimization only. There's not much thought into the narrative and how those two things tie together, and probably made things work in other ways. I think Rogue has a lot more potential, especially in multiclassing, to add a cool element to things, but you didn't go there. Overall, I will say again, Pondo is a dumb name. I'm not a fan. If you want to do the name, Professor Serena Parallax, and she is an astrophysicist, wizard, druid.
We are at time.
Well, you know, I tried with my stats. I think the moral is, when you only have a 16 and 2 stats and a strength of dex, you don't want to multi-class. But I you know what, I think this build, considering the stats I got, is as good as I could have really done. Like, I couldn't have gone into any spellcasters. My best was int with +1, so I really couldn't have done that. But I think the barbarian rogue uses the dex, and it just gets a lot of damage done for definitely less than optimal stats. I think I calculated the average is like 15 damage a round, which is all right, I suppose, for a level 6. But I don't know. I think I did okay with with the stats I got. And you know, I think that the chicken story is flawless, and I don't think you can question it.
Okay, a little bit under time, and I am going to score up that final round and then give us a breakdown on round by round who's the winner of this debate.
I don't want
I
to.
get a bonus point if I can plot a Hero Forge design for my character.
Bruh.
Yeah, you will get a bonus point.
Oh,
Fuck yeah.
Shit.
Okay, you all have 30 seconds.
I'm not making a Hero Forge in 30 seconds.
Wait,
If I have 30 seconds, though, can I make another point?
See,
You have until I'm finished scoring everything up.
hold on. Where do I put my Hero Forge characters?
I didn't say this during the argument, but sorcery point plus invocation on an Eldritch Blast. Sheesh. Anyway. Anyway.
I'm not going to be able to make a character in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
you bet I already have like a Dunamancy wizard slash
my name's
Circle of Stars Druid looking character ready to go. You bet I do.
my name's Serena Parallax. I've got a cool name. No, peace and love. Peace and love.
If anybody has Hero Forges by this point, they can have it.
Man, I made my Hero Forge.
Damn it.
Okay, send it in the chat.
He did. He
It
did.
is.
It's for the viewers out there, for the listeners, it's literally Chicken Little from the voiced by Zach Braff in the 2005 vehicle. That is Jake's character model.
Amanda, I will give you one bonus point, although you clearly had that ready for. Everybody knows for a fact you had that.
I don't get a bonus point for my.
Yeah, no shit.
I drew that. I hand drew that.
Okay, that's just false.
Well, okay, I did hand draw it, but still, it is still Chicken Little.
But also, I will have you know, I have a bunch of like stock characters in Hero Forge. So anytime we have a character creation thing, I will probably have something ready to go.
Nice. Okay, so breaking it down in reverse order, question by question. I had number 3. We had Corey was definitely the winner on that one. They were 2 classes that complement each other very well. They're 2 classes that you get some excellent combo moves from, and it's the right split for the level. And you explained the story behind it. So that was the winner for question 3. In second place, I had Jake. Jake, it was a better build. Did not go as much into the story, which Amanda got a bonus point for going deeper into the story.
How does it feel, Amanda, to lose to Chicken Little?
Okay, no, I'm upset because your criteria that was posed like why is the most mechanically optimized and also like the best story for them. Those are the 2 things, and I gave you both.
Okay.
You didn't say why it was mechanically good. You just said that it was mechanically good.
I went into some detail with it. I mentioned we'll get into this later. Okay.
In terms of the second debate, the one about ramifications of multiclassing in the story, I had it going Corey, Amanda, Jake. Corey, you beat out Amanda because yours was not specifically prohibitive, or not prohibitive, but negative towards multiclassing, but had some similar structure. Amanda, you got a bonus point because flowchart good. And then question 1, I had Amanda winning, and followed by, I think, Jake and then Corey. This was, yes, I had Amanda, Jake, Corey. Amanda, yours was, it's a good build. It was well fleshed out. You put in the Moon Druid, made it much more mechanically viable, and the Wild Magic Barbarian added some nice extra flair on top of that. Definitely painted a great holistic picture. Jake, I liked that yours had a very specific niche that it was focused on, and I liked the story that you told for it. Corey, yours also very solid. Just there were some mechanical things in there that didn't quite work, didn't quite shape up. So you fell behind on that one. But that puts the swing of the debate in full at Corey #1, close, or Amanda #2, and then Jake at a close #3. 1 point difference.
I'm
My
still
crown
salty about that third
continues.
question because I gave specifics. I talked about proficiencies and the adding initiative to the, or intelligence to initiative, and how
I
it
remember
balanced
that.
with spells that it
Those are features. I was looking for things that make the class better.
I mentioned with the concentration with the starry form. I'm just salty. I'm probably just salty.
All right,
Well,
so, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think should have won the debate? What is your multi-class build? How do you incorporate multiclassing into the story? Do you know how multiclassing works? Does anybody?
Please put in the comments.
Please, if you
teach
know
us
how
how
it
to
works.
multi-class.
Because clearly we don't.
All right,
Anyways,
good night, everybody.
Bye.